Hey guys, my name's Alicia. I wanted to share a story with you guys today about something that's pretty close to my heart, and just an experience that I had a few years ago, which I was reminded about today. I know a lot of my family and friends and some of my clients are in this stage of their lives at the moment where they're having babies, and some people find it really exciting, really awesome, and some people find it challenging. Some people don't necessarily find this time of their lives when they're having babies to be amazing. And I started out my parenting journey about 8 years ago. My son's just had his 8th birthday at the start of last month. And I wasn't a particularly maternal sort of, oh, babies, yay. I was never really like that. I didn't know which end was up, because to me, stuff came out of both ends. And my mum had me fairly young, and so we never really had a lot of kids around. So I had no idea really what I was doing. So I decided that I was going to make sure that if I was going to have kids, that I was going to do it right. I was going to learn everything. I read books when I was pregnant about, one of the things I realized was that they were going to, grade the birth, whatever. But then they were going to give me this child, and I had to take care of them, take them home, and look after them for the rest of their lives. And I'm like, holy crap, that is way more daunting than, birth ever was going to be, as far as I was concerned. And, I remember taking this kid home and thinking, what now? Like, what on earth? I had decided that I was going to have a natural birth. If anyone knows me, knows I'm a pretty determined person. It's okay, I'm not going to get into gory details, it's all right. But, I was going to make sure that we were doing it all right from the start. My kid was going to sleep. I'd read all these amazing books, and, I had all these plans for things that were going to happen. And for any of you guys if you haven't had kids, or if you have had kids, you guys will know that, the best laid plans were at letter rest. Like, my kids were never going to eat in the back of the car. And whenever I'm vacuuming out 4 kilos of sultanas now every 6 months when I get time, I crack myself up that yes, of course they were never going to eat in the back of the car. But as a really positive person with lots of energy, having this child, and my son Toby, I love him to bits. But it wasn't easy being a parent. He screamed about 5 hours a day for the first probably 4 months of his life. I'd read the books. I wasn't patting him to sleep. He didn't have a dummy. He wouldn't take the bloody thing anyway. All this stuff that I was like, right, I'm never going to do that. We're going to do it right. It's going to be amazing. This kid's going to sleep, and, I'm just going to be the amazing parent. And look, truth be known, now I know I was an amazing parent, but back then I didn't know that. And, I love your comments. What I found was that I really struggled with the fact that my kid wasn't sleeping. I really struggled because, when he wasn't sleeping, he was screaming. And basically, for the first 4 months of his life, he cried. And I've had clients come in and talk about either chronic pain that they might be in, or talk about, a child who's unsettled. And what I found was that I would but it would be like I didn't get it until I'd experienced it. And because so many people would say to me, oh, it's just normal, babies just cry. But it's like, he's screaming for 5 hours a day, man. What do you do with that? And it doesn't take long before that really does take a toll on mental health. And as someone who's particularly, passionate, particularly, like bubbly type person, to get up every day and think, okay, today's will be the day that he sleeps. Today will be different. And it wasn't. And, day after day, we found different things that we would do. And really, he would only sleep if he was moving. So my way of dealing with that was to pop him in the pram and off we go. We go walkies. So I ended up walking about 3.5 hours a day. And one afternoon I was walking through Ocean Grove, and one of my beautiful girlfriends found me, and I was walking along just crying, as I would do. And she said to me, Leash, what's this? I'm like, oh, this is the afternoon walk. She's like, yeah, but why are you crying? I'm like, this is what I do. every afternoon I would, go for a walk with him, and I'd just be crying because it would just be all too much. And she's like, that's not normal. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not depressed. I'm totally fine. And she's so awesome. I love this woman. And she took me off to the doctor, and, I went on antidepressants for probably about 7 or 8 months. And that was one of the biggest, most challenging experiences for me to deal with, because it was realizing that I had a problem, realizing that feeling the way I was feeling wasn't normal. And in my mind, I thought, no, antidepressants are for people who just want a band-aid, just want to cover stuff up. And it was, I was challenging my own beliefs around mental health, and I was challenging, my own, everything that I'd known. And it was honestly one of the best decisions for me at the time to do that, to go on to medication. It was brilliant. It was so awesome to not be able to cry, to just not feel down anymore. And just for that time to be able to go, you know what, I need this. I don't care if it's a band-aid. I don't care what the heck's going on. I don't even know why or care why I've got postnatal depression. Here it is. This is my journey into it. All right, fine. After I had my daughter, I noticed a few of the same signs. I just went straight back to the doctor and went on medication. And, after about 12 months, I decided to come off it, and that was cool. I had been having some panic attacks. Was in the supermarket, heard a baby crying, and couldn't breathing and things like that. And thought, wow, I don't think that's really healthy. And I thought, well, something I hadn't tried was counselling. So I was on the waiting list I got recommended to a great counsellor, and I was on the waiting list, and I took up running. And, when I changed my state, when I changed my physical state, the endorphins that I gained from running, I've never had panic attacks since. I've been running for about 5 or 6 years now. But that wasn't it. That wasn't the thing that really changed it for me, because there was still stuff that I had processed. There was still stuff that I had, I guess I had attached meanings to certain things that had happened that were no longer serving me. And what I mean by that is that every time my son screamed when he was, attempting to go to sleep, or I don't know what the hell he was doing, I made that mean that I was a bad parent. I made that mean that I wasn't the mum that I had set out to be. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever felt like this, where you're like, something's happened and it's just not actually what as a parent, it's not what you thought it would be. Or you've had a situation where you've experienced something and you've thought, right, you know what, this means that. But, what I actually was able to work through with the counsellor while I was also, running and things like that, was that, just because my kid screamed and he was lactose intolerant, and I had absolutely for those of you who don't know, I'm a reasonably stubborn person, and I had absolutely believed that I was breastfeeding because that was the best thing ever. And these people would say to me, oh, but you can't tell a breastfed baby from a bottle-fed baby as they grow up, whatever. But I was breastfeeding 5 hours a day. This kid was gonna be awesome. And the one thing that I couldn't change, because I was so hell-bent on doing this, was the thing that was actually stopping me, or stopping my son from not being in pain. It was basically the only thing we didn't try was putting him on lactose-free formula. And when I did, he started sleeping through and he stopped screaming. And so it was like the one thing, I said in here, one of the three things that I reckon helped me into and out of, I should say. One was compassion. And it was realizing that when someone says that they are going through hell and back, to have some compassion, because it wasn't just a flippant, whatever. It was really full on. Every single day of our lives, there was a screaming baby, regardless of what we do. People would come and help and, take him for walks and things like that. But still, at the end of the day, it was me getting up in the middle of the night to another screaming child again. And what it taught me was to have compassion, not just for others who are dealing with that situation, but compassion for myself. Compassion that, it's okay if not everything gets done. It's okay if you drop a few balls when shit's tough. And the next thing that I guess I learned from it was that you've got to bend your rules. Because the one thing that I was like, I'm not changing, I'm sticking to it because this is apparently the best thing, was the one thing that had I have bent my rules, my own personal rules, there was nobody telling me. There was no doctors saying you have to breastfeed. There was no friends saying you have to. There was nobody telling me that I had to do it. It was my rules. But it was my rules that were actually affecting my son's life. And so sometimes we've got to bend our rules and look at what's the one thing we're holding on to. And is that one thing the thing that's actually holding us back? And the other thing that I learned in this journey is the importance of allowing others to help. Because as a particularly determined young woman, it was really, really, really hard to allow my friend to take me off to the doctors. because I was fine. There's nothing wrong with me. But, you know, there were people out there that actually wanted to help me in that time, and I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let them because I was fine. I was going to be okay, and I didn't need their help anyway. And, you know, I wonder sometimes if part of the problem is that we isolate ourselves because we feel like nobody cares or we feel like nobody wants to care. But really, there are always people around that actually do want the best for us and want to help us through really tough times. And so I want to encourage you, if this is you, or you've been in this situation before, or if you've got clients in this situation, it's about embracing the tribe around you. Because for those of you who know what depression's like, and I can see that there's a number of you guys here watching, and I know some of you guys personally, I know that this has touched you in some way. That one of the first things that tends to happen is we feel isolated. We feel like we're the only person on the planet with this issue. When really, you know, the stats are showing that depression is huge, whether it's postnatal, post-traumatic, current, whatever, anxiety, whatever. It's like, I'm just going to throw them all in the one boat for this particular thing. Because really, it's about embracing our tribe. Because the more I embrace the people around me, the less isolated I felt. And that took a lot of guts. It took a lot of courage to go and ask for help. It took a lot of courage to step up and go to the GP for the first time. It took courage to ask my friend for help the day that she found me crying on the side of the road. It took courage to want to actually get, you know, start going for a run, or to ring a counsellor and make an appointment and go. And, you know, I probably saw her for maybe 2 or 3 months. And in those 2 or 3 months, she unearthed some stuff that I didn't even know existed in my life. But I can tell you now that that is the catalyst for the growth that I have now in my life, for the momentum that I now have in my life. It was that massive step that it took for me to have the growth that I now have, where I now, you know, I own my life, I own myself, and I very rarely go into that place anymore. And I rarely go there because I've got different boundaries and I've got different pathways in my life that I can go to. Because I think for me, when I look at that time and I look at the trauma that I experienced in those months, it's like I got to the end of my comfort zone. I got right to the end of my comfort zone. I didn't have anything else there. I had absolutely, I love you guys. Like, I had absolutely nothing there at the end. But one of the greatest gifts that I have been given through this journey is that now I know that when I get to the end, when I get to that, it's called a boundary condition. When I get to that boundary condition, I've got no neural pathways. It doesn't mean that I have to stop. What it means is that I can break through, and that I have people in my life around me that can help me break through any situation. Because just because I've overcome this one thing doesn't mean that that's it. Woohoo, I'm good to go for the rest of my life. Challenges keep coming. Of course they're going to keep coming. That's life. But knowing that when we get to that boundary condition, the one thing we've got is that we can push through and actually have what's called a breakthrough, where you're literally breaking through those neural pathways to go, yeah, that's where I want to be. And I'm willing to step up. I'm willing to do what it takes, because now my life is impacting more people. And one of the biggest differences between being a child and being an adult is that it's not about just us, it's about helping others. And that transition from, you know, childhood into adulthood is about what you can give and what you can do to you can do for others, and stepping up and having a greater impact. So, you know, guys, I absolutely love your feedback. I really appreciate the people that are jumping in and saying some stuff. And Christy, thank you. I appreciate that. And John, I'll absolutely give you a link to the recording. You know, guys, have any of you guys felt like this? Have you been in places where you've hit that boundary condition and you've been able to break through? Because I'd love you can put the comments below and I can read them. And I love the fact that this can be interactive. So, you know, pop that in if you want to. I really had it on my heart today. I got some news this morning about someone close to me that is really struggling at the moment because lots of different circumstances. And I've been thinking about this all day, and it's like, you know what, it's kind of tough to have to go back to those times, because I've almost forgotten them. But I haven't forgot the learning. You know, I haven't forgotten the gold, because honestly, that still remains today one of the most challenging, 6 or 7 months of my life. but it is totally catapulted me. It has totally catapulted me to where I am today. It has forced me to grow. It's forced me to change. I can't stay the same as I was before I had kids. And I know people say that, you know, kids change you or whatever, and of course they do. Like, change is inevitable. Change will always happen, but growth is a choice. So I trust that this has been helpful for you guys. I really appreciate you joining me in, and I'd love to hear from you guys. If anyone is struggling with their mental health, or, make sure you reach out, get some help. I'm willing to chat to you about my story. I'm willing to chat to you. I can put you in contact with people who are brilliant at helping people break through this sort of stuff. So that's all for this video, guys. I trust that you've had an amazing day, and love you guys to bits. Thanks heaps.